April 30th, 1943. Paris, France. The heart of the city beats to a rhythm of fear and tension. The Eiffel Tower, once a symbol of Parisian grandeur, now looms like a silent sentinel, overshadowed by the presence of occupying forces. The streets, once vibrant with the laughter and chatter of Parisians, are now hushed, stifled by the weight of Nazi boots echoing along the cobblestone roads. For most of the population, survival is a quiet dance. Yet, in the shadow of the occupation, there are those whose resistance doesn't come in the form of guns or bombs, but in something far less expected, a needle and thread. In the cramped, dimly lit back room of a modest seamstress shop, a woman works by the flickering light of a single bulb. Her hands, nimble and skilled, weave through fabric, transforming plain materials into elaborate dresses that would catch the eye of anyone who dared look. But beneath each stitch, there's something more. Hidden messages, words of resistance, coded with a precision that no one would ever notice unless they knew where to look. This woman, like countless others in Paris, is caught in the war's vice, forced to navigate between the world of the oppressor and the oppressed. She is a seamstress, an artist with fabric, but also a silent revolutionary. In a city now governed by fear, she has found a way to fight without raising suspicion. Her work, on the surface, appears no different from any other seamstress in occupied France. Dresses made for the wives of high-ranking Nazi officers, adorned with lace and delicate embroidery. The kind of dresses that might have once been worn at elegant soirees or grand galas before the world had descended into chaos. But there is a deeper purpose to each creation. With every turn of the needle, she embeds messages. Hidden in the folds of the fabric, within the seams, between the delicate patterns of lace and thread, she weaves notes, maps, and sometimes even full letters. These secretive dispatches carry vital information: routes, rendezvous points, intelligence gathered from the streets of Paris, details that could change the course of the war. These seemingly innocent garments are the perfect disguise. No one would think to search a dress. It is, after all, a symbol of the comforts of the old world, of elegance and leisure, an object so far removed from the bloodied chaos of war that its true potential would never even be considered by the occupying forces. She is not alone in this clandestine work. In the shadows of Paris, a network of resistance fighters, young and old, men and women, all working in the dark corners of a fractured city, have learned to rely on ingenuity rather than force. The dress is her weapon of choice, but there are others too. Everyday objects transformed into instruments of defiance. The simplicity of her craft allows her to move under the radar, unnoticed, and yet it is this very invisibility that gives her power. In the back room, as the clock ticks away, her mind races. She knows that with every dress she completes, she is taking a risk, an immense one. The Nazi officers who come in her shop are not just customers. They're the very embodiment of the oppressive regime, the ones who enforce the terror that has blanketed the city. They sit across from her as she sews, their eyes cold and unfeeling, never suspecting the subversive message hidden beneath their very noses. The woman's heart pounds in her chest, but her hands never waver. The work must continue. There are lives at stake. The resistance is depending on her, even if they don't know it yet. As the sun sets, the streets outside the shop grow quieter, but the tension inside is palpable. Each piece she sews is a thread in a much larger web. But unlike the beautiful, delicate fabric she works with, the resistance is not fragile. It is woven from the strength of people who have nothing left to lose, people who will fight in any way they can, even if it means using the very things the enemy deems innocuous. These small acts of defiance, though unnoticed by most, are the lifeblood of the resistance movement, a movement that exists not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, hidden corners of everyday life. Her latest creation, a dress meant for the wife of a high-ranking officer, is nearly finished. The woman has spent days on this garment, every detail meticulously executed. A row of delicate lace runs along the hem, embroidered with intricate floral patterns. It looks innocent, even beautiful. But sewn into the hem is a folded piece of paper, small enough to evade notice, carrying critical intelligence. The paper is folded so expertly that unless the officer's wife were to undress and carefully inspect the seams, no one would ever see it. The dress is more than just clothing. It is a messenger, a lifeline between the resistance fighters hiding in plain sight and the world outside. As the woman finishes her work, she pauses, fingers trembling slightly. There is a weight in her chest, a familiar anxiety that has come to define these moments. The woman is keenly aware of the power she holds in her hands. The dress may seem like an innocent luxury, but it holds information that could save lives, perhaps even change the course of the war. She could feel the gravity of her actions, the knowledge that each thread she pulls could bring a new level of danger. The officers she serves might very well never realize they are complicit in the rebellion growing around them. In their eyes, she is just a seamstress, nothing more. But to the people she serves, to the men and women fighting in the shadows, she is a symbol of quiet resistance, a force moving unseen yet ever present. The woman finishes the dress, folds it neatly, and places it on a table for delivery. She looks at one last time. It is a beautiful piece of work, a masterpiece in its own right, but it's the hidden message within that will make all the difference. The dress is no longer a mere garment. It has become a vessel for change. She exhales, standing still for a moment, trying to steady her breath. The city outside may be suffocating, its streets filled with the weight of occupation, but in her hands, there is a flicker of hope. She hears the soft creak of the shop door as it opens, and the sharp, heavy steps of the officer who will soon collect the dress. Her heart skips a beat. She must maintain her composure. She is only a seamstress, she reminds herself. Nothing more. She places the dress in a bag, hands it over, and with the slightest nod, the officer takes it without a second thought. As he walks away, the woman returns to her sewing machine. The silence in the room feels heavier now, knowing the danger that always lurks around the corner. But she does not waver. She has done this countless times before. Her hands resume their steady rhythm. The click of the needle is soft, but constant reminder of the battle being waged, not with guns or bombs, but with the very fabric of daily life. There is power in these threads, power that cannot be seen by those in control, power that runs deeper than the occupation itself. This is how the resistance moves, unseen and unnoticed, through the cracks of history. It is not always loud, not always dramatic, but is constant, persistent, and quiet. Like the seamstress, the people who fight against the empire do so in the shadows, using whatever they can, thread, fabric, ink, paper. The world may never fully understand the magnitude of what these small acts of defiance represent, but they are the ones who keep the flame of resistance alive. The officers who pick up the dresses may never know that they are walking away with the power to change everything. As the night falls over Paris, and the city's pulse remains low and steady, the woman sews, and with each stitch, she asks herself, how long can they keep watching the thread without seeing the message woven in? August 14th, 1943. The moon hangs low over the French countryside, a pale witness to the lives that have been shattered, stolen, or thrown into the maelstrom of war. The once pristine fields are now scarred with the marks of occupation, the dirt turned up by the boots of soldiers who trample over the land with indifference. Yet, beneath the darkened sky, a group of young faces emerge from the shadows, their eyes sharp and determined, their hearts carrying the weight of a mission far greater than their years. These are the unsung warriors of the French resistance, children of a war-torn world, using what they can to fight back against an empire that seeks to erase them. Among them, one name is whispered with particular reverence, a young woman who has spent months running messages sewn into dresses, passing them between trusted hands, always on the move, always evading capture. It is her courage that has inspired them, her ingenuity that has shown them how to fight not with guns, but with the simplest tools of the everyday, thread, paper, and fabric. She has taught them to think like ghosts, to blend into the backdrop of a world that refuses to see them. For them, the dresses are more than just garments. They're the lifeblood of the resistance, delivering secrets, plans, and information that could shift the balance of power. In the dead of night, under the cover of darkness, the resistance fighters begin their dangerous work. Their task is simple yet perilous: to take the dresses, sewn with messages hidden deep in the seams, and transport them to key locations where they will be decoded and acted upon. To the untrained eye, the dresses are just that: clothes to be worn, nothing more. But to those who know, they are far more. The messages contained within the seams are critical, filled with the kind of intelligence that could bring down entire operations or expose critical weaknesses in the Nazi machinery. The first of these young couriers, a teenager barely old enough to be called a woman, waits nervously in the shadows of a barn. Her name is Marianne, and her hands tremble as she clutches a carefully wrapped bundle containing one of the dresses. She has been chosen for this task not because of her age, but because of her ability to move unseen. In the war, young people like her are overlooked, dismissed as inconsequential. The soldiers marching through the countryside would never think to suspect a child. It is this underestimation that the resistance has come to rely on. They know that in this world, where every adult is a target, the true warriors are the ones who slip through the cracks, silent, invisible, and deadly. Marianne looks over her shoulder one last time before slipping out of the barn and into the night. Her feet barely make a sound as she moves across the field, the long grass brushing against her legs like 1,000 soft whispers. The dress she carries is a symbol of defiance, but it is also a heavy burden. If she is caught, there will be no mercy. She has seen what happens to people who defy the regime. Families torn apart, lives extinguished with a brutal finality that leaves no room for regret. But Marianne knows the risk, just as the others know it. This is the reality of the war, a reality where the price of failure is not just personal. It is the cost of thousands of lives. Her journey takes her through fields, down narrow roads, and into forests that seem to swallow her whole, the trees standing like sentinels on the edge of the world. Her breath is shallow, her pulse quickening with every step, but she forces herself to remain calm. The night is her ally, a blanket that conceals her from the watchful eyes of the enemy. The dress must make it to the next safe house, where it will be decoded by a trusted member of the resistance. From there, the information will be passed along, carried by more couriers, until it reaches its final destination, where it will be used to turn the tide of the war, even if just for a moment. As Marianne continues her journey, she encounters another courier, a boy no older than herself, standing in the shadow of a large oak tree. His face is tense, his eyes darting around as though expecting the earth itself to betray him. They exchange a quick, silent nod, the kind of gesture that has become second nature in a world where words can be more dangerous than silence. She hands him the dress, passing the bundle into his hands with a subtle but unspoken trust. He will carry it to the next location, and from there, it will continue its journey. But before Marianne can slip away, the boy's voice stops her. "Do you ever think it'll end?" he asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Marianne hesitates, unsure how to answer. In truth, she doesn't know. No one does. The war has cast a long shadow over their lives, and the end, if it ever comes, seems impossibly distant. But for a moment, she allows herself to imagine it. A world where the Nazis are gone, where the streets of Paris are once again filled with music and laughter, where the lives of the people who have been stolen can be returned. It's a fantasy, she knows, but in the darkest hours, it is these fleeting moments of hope that sustain them. "We do what we can," she replies simply, before turning and disappearing into the night. Meanwhile, in another part of the countryside, a group of resistance fighters huddles in an abandoned farmhouse, poring over maps and documents by the light of a single candle. Among them is an older man, a former soldier who has seen the horrors of war firsthand. He studies the dress Marianne has delivered, examining it with the precision of someone who knows how to read between the lines. He carefully removes the hidden message sewn into the hem, unwrapping it from its protective layer of fabric. The message is clear. A Nazi convoy is scheduled to pass through a remote village in the coming days. The timing is perfect. With the right information, the resistance could launch a surprise attack, striking at the heart of the enemy's supply lines. It could be a game changer, but only if the message reaches the right people in time. In that farmhouse, the weight of the world seems to hang on a single piece of cloth. The decision is made quickly. The resistance will move immediately, gathering fighters from nearby cells, preparing for an attack that could shift the momentum of the war. But time is of the essence. They have no room for error. As the resistance group moves forward, so too do the couriers. One by one, the dresses, each carrying vital information, are passed from hand to hand, each courier assuming the dangerous responsibility with quiet determination. The dresses travel faster than the enemy can anticipate. They cross borders, evade checkpoints, and weave through towns like ghosts in the night, their journey almost poetic in its precision. The resistance has learned that it is not brute force that wins battles. It is intelligence, careful planning, and, sometimes, the ability to remain unseen. Yet, as the couriers continue their work, the reality of their task becomes clearer. They are not invincible. They are not immune to the dangers that lurk at every corner. Marianne's heart clenches as she hears the first rumors of a courier who has been caught, her fate sealed by a slip of the tongue or an unnoticed movement. But in the wake of her death, the resistance does not falter. They take the lesson and move forward, learning from the past, adapting, and becoming more efficient. The couriers, though young and inexperienced, have become the lifeblood of the resistance. They are not soldiers in the traditional sense. They do not carry weapons or fight on the front lines. But their work is no less important. They are the silent messengers, the ones who carry the weight of the war on their shoulders, the ones whose actions may never be celebrated in history books, but whose contribution is invaluable nonetheless. In the quiet of the night, as the resistance fighters prepare for their attack, the dresses continue to weave their way through the web of war. They are more than just clothing. They're the threads that hold the resistance together, the delicate strands of hope that bind people together in a common cause. And in the hands of these young couriers, they become something more than fabric. They become a symbol of defiance, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there are those who will rise up, unseen and unnoticed, to fight for what they believe in. The war rages on. But for a moment, in the quiet, hidden corners of the world, the dress is a reminder that even the smallest actions can have the greatest impact. February 12, 1945. Paris, France. The war is winding down, its final days casting long shadows over a city that has already seen too much. The sounds of battle are far off now, replaced by the buzz of cautious optimism, whispers of liberation, of an empire on the brink of collapse. The streets of Paris are slowly coming alive again, the dull grayness of occupation lifting in favor of something that feels, perhaps, like freedom. But for those who fought in the shadows, the war is not yet over. The cost has been too high, and the erasure of their contributions, their quiet defiance, begins. Among them is the woman who sewed messages into dresses, whose hands once danced over fabric, stitching hope into every thread. Her role in the resistance was never meant to be seen, never meant to be celebrated. She was a ghost, a whisper in the dark corners of the war. Her name is barely remembered now. In the grand narrative of history, she was never truly acknowledged. She was part of something larger than herself. But in the aftermath, the world moved on, as it always does, choosing to forget the quiet victories that changed the course of everything.